folks. We're going to call the public hearing back to order, and at this time, I'd like to remind anybody here to please sign in so we have a record of who's in attendance. I guess at this point, when we left off the last time, we were looking for some opinion from the town attorney.
Yep, that opinion's in front of you, although not real clear. She did have some other interesting things to say, although it's not in her email. Our shoreline ordinance is a standalone ordinance, which means we can't overlap it with the town ordinance. For section 303 and 2.07 to work in shoreline, it would have to be listed in the shoreline ordinance. So neither of those two articles can be used in any shoreline case. So that kind of trumps everything that we asked her to give us an opinion on, because it doesn't matter in this case anyway. And she kind of goes on to describe this, although she doesn't say that specifically, but she did say that to me. So we're right back to a basic variance appeal for shoreline development. 3.03 and 2.07 can't be used in this case, or in any shoreline case.
So that changes the request to the sideline reduction and a backline reduction.
Correct. Yeah. And keep in mind that reduction is somewhat limited to 15%. Our ordinance doesn't say it shall be limited. You know, it says kind of limited. Let's see if I can find that wording exactly.
So in this case, we can't look at anything except the shoreline zone.
That is correct.
And where does it say that in shoreline zoning that it's standalone?
It doesn't say it in the ordinance, but it is a standalone ordinance. That's how the town voted it in. It doesn't actually say it in the book.
It's not part of the traditional zoning ordinance.
Right.
That's why it's called the shoreline zoning ordinance. It has its own effective date.
Yeah, its own title.
I guess I'm really confused because we still use other parts of this ordinance for land that's in the shoreline. That's not listed in here. Section 3.
3.03. Yeah,
Right.
I can't think of another case in shoreline where we have used that, actually.
But even the standard setbacks, wherever that page went, is part of a different section of this ordinance. It's not in the shoreline.
Correct. It's in the town ordinance and not in the
It's
shoreline.
in the town ordinance, but now you're telling us we can't use stuff from the town ordinance in the shoreline.
That's
So
correct.
that's kind of a contradiction, saying that we are using the property setbacks, but they're not listed in shoreline.
And
But we can't use the other parts of the code because they're not listed in
And
shoreline.
she said that as well. She said she asked me, do you know that you don't have setbacks in the shoreline ordinance?
Perfect.
And I said, well, Natalie, you reviewed this and gave it the green flag. DEP reviewed it and gave it the green flag. Selectmen reviewed it, gave it the green flag. The planning board reviewed it, gave it the green flag. So no matter how many eyes you have looking at an ordinance, someone someday is going to find something wrong.
keep going, Sean, with my questions, or you comfortable with that? Can I keep going with my questions?
Sure, absolutely.
So, if we're in the shoreline zone,
Yep,
and he's asking us for reduction on setbacks, which
Yep.
there are no setbacks here
Yep.
except for the 100 feet from the water,
right.
then I'm not sure
Well,
that there's anything here guiding us not to allow him to do
But the
this test.
setbacks from the road is
Just
the one
a
he can't
piece-
meet.
Hang on a second.
Thank you, Sean. We have to kind of assume that the setbacks in the town ordinance, when this is corrected, those same setbacks are going to be in the shoreline ordinance. Identical to what's in the town ordinance.
And I would also hope that, because in the planning board meetings, I was there for what is now 2.07,
Yep.
to include shoreland, that would also be included into the shoreland thing, because it was excluded and we took that exclusion out.
Right, it was. Unfortunately, it wasn't caught that a different statement should have gone in 207 to allow its use in the shoreline. You know, we excluded it, but then we didn't rewrite that sentence to allow its use in the shoreline.
But if I understand what you said earlier, because it's not actually listed in the shoreline
Yep.
section, that wouldn't even make a difference.
Well, it would if it's stated for a fact
It
in the
would
town.
be stated.
Yeah, if it's stated in the town ordinance that this will be allowed to be used in the shoreline ordinance, then that's different. Our town ordinance is allowing it. But right now, it doesn't say that, so we can't use it. So you're gonna be asking for a variance to the setbacks listed in the town ordinance. Because that's all we have to go by.
But it doesn't say that those include the shoreline zone.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I'm just
No, I hear you.
being
So-
picky on words.
Yep.
So we're in the same situation, in my mind, we're in the same situation on the town setbacks as we are on the use of 2.07. Because it's not listed specifically, that's for shoreland, that
Yep,
if
that's a valid point.
we're being told that we can't use it, then
Yep.
we can't use any of it.
Yep, that's a valid point. I don't have an answer for you. So how do I look at that? So 3.03 and 2.07 are exceptions in the ordinance. They're a gateway to a reduction allowed in the town ordinance. Everybody accept that train of thought?
Say that again? One more
They
time.
are exceptions. You know, they're a gateway for a resident to get a variance in a tough situation. You know, if you have a house pre-77, you can set it to within 10 feet of the property.
Right.
That's what 303 says.
Right.
2.07 allows the code enforcement office to give a reduction following the criteria of 2.07, which involves a survey to give us a frontage and a setback.
Correct.
Those are two exceptions to allow specific cases to try to get a structure built. Now, in 3.03, it specifies an addition. In Mr. Remick's case, this isn't an addition. It's a standalone structure. So 3.03 only works if it's an addition to the structure, but not if it's in shoreline. So the setbacks are a guideline, state town-wide, for how a structure is to be set back from the property line, town-wide, including shoreline.
It's not including shoreline.
Well, I'm
It's
telling you,
assumed to be
I'm telling you
including
it's
shoreline.
included in the shoreline. These are town-wide, district-wide, that's why they list all the districts. Those are the setbacks you're gonna work with to either disallow or allow this variance and any variances in the future. I didn't ask Natalie that question. I'm confident that's what she would say, as I was confident in her reply with this one. So your alternative, if, you know, the board agrees that there's a pretty serious fault with the ordinance, because the setbacks aren't in shoreline ordinance, then you won't have a choice but to deny Mr. Remick's application,
Why is that?
because the setbacks aren't in shoreline ordinance. How are you gonna base your determination? I mean, if we go with your theory, how are you gonna base a determination on the variance if the setbacks aren't in shoreline? You can't. You'll have to deny the application.
If there's no setbacks in the shoreline zoning,
What do you go with?
there are no setbacks.
Right,
So he's asking to put a building in a certain location.
with a variance of what?
I'm not sure there's a variance, but I'm not sure you can deny him
Yeah,
to the ability to put that building where he's asking to put that if there's nothing saying that you have to be X amount of feet from the sidelines. He's
Yeah.
asking for a specific location.
yep, that's true. Yep, okay.
So I don't
I'm with you.
think that's a denial.
Yep, I'm with you.
I mean, I hate to be particular with
No,
that.
no, that's true.
but-
What bothers me the most is that, you know, Natalie read all of this, and 2 years later, she's telling the town, hey, you didn't include the setbacks in your shoreline ordinance, when she had the final review,
Right.
you
The
know?
shoreline zone from your high water mark back is 100 feet, correct?
Well, it's 250 feet, actually.
250,
Yeah.
but they can't build any closer than 100.
That's correct.
But you could be in the same zone as your neighbor across the street. Whether it's,
That's true. Yep, that's true.
and I look at shoreland as an extension to the zoning of that whole
Right.
area.
Yep. So the AR zone.
It's not, to me, I don't look at it as being broke out specific, because this side of the street's within 250 feet of the water, and that side's not.
Yeah, and that's
But
what I'm
you're
trying
in
to.
the same zone, I look
Yeah.
at it as RA or whatever the zone would
And that's what I'm
be.
trying to say, the
It
setbacks in
would be
town wall.
encompassed in that entire area, and shoreland would add additional restrictions
Right,
to it. No, that's how I've always interpreted it to
Yeah.
be.
yep,
But there's all kinds of ways to interpret.
Yeah.
I mean, on this one here, who owns the right of way? Does the other guy own the right of way and then he can't use the reduction because 50 feet of his land is the right of way? I mean, every single property is a different piece of property. And I think we have to go by what the words say, not what our assumptions say. And if we're being counseled that the shoreline zone is a standalone zone, and it doesn't encompass the other parts of the contract, then, or the ordinance,
Right. Then we have to go by that.
I think we have to go by that. I mean,
you have to go by what?
we have to go by what we're counseled on. If we're being
Oh,
told
I
that this
see.
is a standalone
Yep,
ordinance, then we can only look at what's in the shoreline ordinance.
right, that's correct.
Interesting.
Pardon me?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Well, the only setback he doesn't meet is the road one, right?
yes.
And by 6 feet or something?
Well, no, because now we're being told that that other section of the code doesn't pertain to anything in shoreline.
Right.
Well, if you
Well,
look
what's the
at,
shoreline setback from a road?
In this area, it's 75 feet. It's AR, 75 feet from the road. And it's
he's,
35 feet from the sidelines.
yeah, and he's at 49.5.
And we're being told that right now, the sidelines don't meet
Oh, the side, oh, because it's.
because you
showing the
can't
other-
use the
okay, now I
2.07
see-
because
now
this is
Bob, I see where you're
shoreline
going now. I was
standalone.
getting lost there between 702, 703, and probably 670 by this point. You know, I mean, it's getting confusing.
But all those other things that are listed here aren't true anymore because we're being counseled that shoreland zoning is a standalone
Zoning.
zone.
And in fact, there would be two standalone buildings too, because she had mentioned something about that in the letter too.
But that doesn't matter.
No,
We
It
just
doesn't
have
matter?
to look at the code.
no.
The building's more than 100 feet from the water. That's all the shoreline zone says.
That's what I thought. But then again, where'd the 75 feet from the road come in?
That was under
That's
section.
the town ordinance.
Town
Oh.
zone.
But we're not. It's sticky. It's.
I don't think it matters.
Wish Natalie was here right now.
I wish she was
Because I got
too.
some questions for her. Because there's got to be a degree to overlay on this between shoreland and regular zoning for setbacks. You can't have an entire, anything that's within 250 feet from the water have no setback restrictions on it. That's
No,
just
you
not
can.
even
And
realistic.
I seriously think that, you know, she's gonna say you have to go by the setbacks within the town ordinance. You know, even though our shoreline ordinance doesn't refer to those, you know, the intent would be to have the town ordinance setbacks govern the setbacks of the shoreline ordinance. That's what I think the intent is.
Yeah, but what's the precedent? Not the intent, the precedent. Which
What's that?
precedent of law is applying here? The state's law on shoreline or the town law on, or zoning law, whatever you want to call it? Which one takes precedent over the other?
Well, the town has a shoreline zone ordinance.
Yeah, it does.
But the state still overrides, anytime there's a conflict, the
The
higher
state
rate-
signed off on it.
Yeah.
Right, the state signed off on it.
So I guess for me to keep getting this clear in my mind, where does it say that this is a standalone ordinance?
You'd have to go back to the selectmen's minutes where I requested it and they approved it 2 years ago.
I see it as a standalone ordinance, but it's still part of that zone. That ordinance is gonna
Can't
be.
be both.
Can't be both.
You can't say it's a piece of the
You have
ordinance,
an
and then you
AR
can't
zone.
say it's a standalone.
Or you have an FA zone or whatever it is, depending
Yeah.
on where the property is. That's still governed, that whole zone is still. You look at your maps and your zoning maps.
Right, all the
It's not
zoning.
gonna designate on that zoning map specifically shoreline, but you know your shoreline because you're within 250 feet,
And there are a different set of
So-
regulations.
which would be stricter than the typical, but I don't think that it would have to, I don't know that it would have to specifically spell out the actual setbacks. There's a difference in what it could be across the street if they're 250 feet from the water. But it's still in the same zone, same area.
I hear what you're saying,
There
but
should be some overlap somehow there with setbacks. It shouldn't have to be specific.
No, and again, I say that wasn't the intent. I think the intent of the two ordinances were to mirror the existing setbacks townwide. I think that's the intent, and to, you know, twist that in any other fashion would be wrong.
I don't disagree with that, but I do disagree with saying that 2.07 can't be used because we didn't put that one sentence in saying shoreline, can be used within shoreline, because the intent of taking that it can't be used in shoreline out
Yeah.
was so it could be used in shoreline.
And I remember that.
So that intent of that meeting
Yeah,
was to include that in shoreline.
I remember that.
So
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think those guidelines should stand, but I also think that 2.07 should stand because that was the intent of that.
Yeah, I guess it would be safe for the zoning board of appeals to make that assumption that the intent was to allow 2.07 to work in shoreland. I know the planning board talked about that. I was there when it happened. I was there when they took out the exemption to disallow it. And unfortunately, we weren't guided to put the statement back in to allow it specifically in shoreland. You know, that was a mistake, but I know the intent was there by the planning board to allow 2.07 to work in shoreland. So if we're talking intents of anything, I would be comfortable, and the ZBA should be comfortable in allowing 2.07 to work in shoreland.
I agree. Myself.
You know,
And
we're constantly having to tweak these things, you know, and
nothing is perfect.
nothing is perfect. You know, when
10 years from now, they're still gonna be tweaking it.
they will
And
be.
they have tweaked it from
Yeah.
10 years ago. I mean, that's just the nature.
Yep, they
You
will
can't
be.
get every word right, but you gotta look at the intent, I guess.
You do. I've
And
been taught that all
my
the time.
common sense tells me that these things should overlay a little bit so
Right.
that you have guidelines to work
Yeah.
within and provisions that allow you to do things within reason.
Yeah, and you know, 3.03, okay, I can understand that. You know, if you're putting on an addition, slash, then you can use it. If it's not an addition, you can't use it. So this will be something I will tweak in the shoreline ordinance, and I will also eventually add the setbacks in the shoreline ordinance. And we'll take it from there. So as it stands right now, you should allow the use of 2.07. But, you know, remember, he still has to prove undue hardship. Shoreline variances are always very tough.
Yep,
Always very
absolutely.
tough.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just, if I'm getting this right, if that was connected to the house, he could use or not use?
You could
If
use,
he connected it.
303 says, in any case, it does not exempt shoreline districts. Only the town lawyer is telling us that. 303 is pretty clear in my book. In any case, in addition, can be
Addition.
built within 10 feet of the property line. If it's pre-77,
Right. What,
Right.
is
And
the
that's-
house, what, 76 or something?
73.
73?
but this is an addition, so just forget about that.
Right, but I'm just saying.
But if he had a
connected-
breezeway, it could be.
I
Yeah,
guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
But that doesn't change the back setback from the road.
No, it probably, yeah, that's correct.
So that's irrelevant.
Right. For some reason, I thought I had numbers down here for 2.07, but maybe not.
He did in his request,
You did?
yes.
Do
What,
you
for
remember
the
that
set-
information, Brett?
I have it right here.
You
It's
do?
right on the map, the page right, it's connected to the map.
Oh, okay.
the page right before it?
Yes.
Yeah, left side setback, 20 feet, need 19.
You see
Need to be
that too.
19. 41 needs 19.
So he's met the water setback, that's not an issue.
Right, this is-
He's met both
Yeah,
side
I'm just-
setbacks.
there's something
Yep, he's
wrong
met
with
both
it.
side setbacks.
It's just 55, it's 55, 49. He's 5.5 feet short on the driveway.
Well, it needs 55, that's incorrect, he actually needs 75. That's,
Well, where's the 55 number coming?
I don't know, that's,
Right.
That's the number that you had given me on 207.
No, surveyor put it on the map. on
yeah,
the
survey
plot
put on the
plan.
map.
Yeah, and that's what he assumed was to qualify for 207.
He would
Yeah,
have
when
put
we
that
thought
on,
he
yeah.
could use 207, we did the computations for him.
Okay, okay.
And that was the number that
Oh, I got you,
207.
'cause yep, you're right, Brett, yeah, you're right.
What was that again? I didn't quite hear.
So, when we first talked with Brett, I figured what 2.07 would have to be, what the calculations would be according to our ordinance. So that's what these numbers are,
Okay, so that's the number that you established for them?
for
that
2.07, right,
Okay,
yep,
And so it's 10 feet
yep.
plus
So,
1 foot for every 5 feet
Over
over 50.
so 2.07,
On our book, it's 2.08.
Right, there, they got the old version.
Oh, I'm the only one in the book.
Okay.
so-
yeah, no,
Oh,
that's
you're
right.
right, too.
so
So-
2.07 won't help him in this, he's asking for more.
It helps for the sidelines, but not the backyard. I mean, the front yard.
Yep. So in Natalie's letter, let's muddy the waters up a little bit more. She says, if someone wants a lesser setback than is allowed under either of those provisions, that person may request a variance. However, the applicant must demonstrate compliance both with the applicable variance criteria, whether undue hardship or practical difficulty. So if you back up a little bit, what she's saying here is he can ask for a variance greater than what 2.07 would allow him. He's asking for a variance of to 49.5, whatever that math is. Tammy, you're the mathematician.
5.5 feet.
We said that. Are you the mathematician?
Brett?
No. That was him.
Brett said-
You?
5.5.
So he's asking for a variance of 5.5 feet. And she's saying that's doable. Everybody clear with that scenario so far?
Yes.
It's doable under
2.07.
the hardship. The
Yep.
variance.
Well,
But if he moves it back and attaches it to the house, he doesn't need any variance because it should meet the setbacks of the 55.6 feet, correct?
right. Yep, that's
And
correct.
unfortunately, no matter what, our board is compelled to try and make whatever additions to the property as least intrusive as you can on setbacks.
That is also correct, and Natalie says that in her narrative.
And
Yep,
if there's a place that the structure can go on the property and be close to or meeting setbacks, then that's really what you have to do.
yep, that's,
Unless there's undue circumstances of the topography of the lot or other undue,
Yeah.
which would have to be shown as evidence
yep,
that there's a reason why you can't go.
yep. You're right,
somewhere.
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
So basically, we need to see an undue hardship over 5.5 feet. What's the difference? What's creating the hardship with that 5.5 feet? I mean, the building can go in with a permit, 5.5 feet further in.
Yep,
So he's asking to move it back 5.5 feet. So what's creating the hardship
of not
of not having that, which
being
is
able to do it.
pretty much impossible to prove?
It is, yeah.
Right. And that's up to him to prove to us that he has a hardship by not moving it back.
Right.
And if you look at the other and that you discussed there is that, you know, you do have a structure on there. So it's not like you're, item one, it's a tough thing to meet. And I don't care who comes before the board. It's one of the hardest things in all of it to meet, is that you don't yield a reasonable return, especially when you do have a house on there.
Yep.
Because the courts have set standards, and we've all been educated in that, you know, and through workshops, and we see what the states look at. What unreasonable or reasonable use or return on property is. Like I said, we're trying to work everything we can to help you here, but we may have our hands tied a little bit.
So if I can make a suggestion, start going through questions 1 through 4. You know, I think we determined that 2.07 would work in this case, but he's going to meet the reasonable return rule as well.
Okay, so how's the rest of the board?
And Robert, thank you for your comment too, by the way.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because
Yep.
I have read the whole ordinance, believe it or not.
Yep.
And it's just hard for me to work through all the little
It is.
loopholes
And I read it every
stuff,
day.
right.
And
I don't do that.
Sometimes you gotta put practicality together, and you gotta look at this as a bigger zone, and then this is like,
Yeah.
shoreland's its own zoning ordinance, but it's almost a sub to that zone itself, because part of that zone is encompassed with water.
right,
So, and the rest of it isn't.
yeah,
But in reality, I mean, if you were looking at the shoreline zoning and the setbacks, there aren't any properties along the water's edge that meet any of the criteria for the AR zone, and they're all in the AR zone.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
So
I don't
it
disagree with
should
that at
have
all.
its own setbacks.
Then you'd have to create a separate
you
zone,
would.
just like Lake Arrowhead is a similar
We've already-
situation, so there's village.
You've already got it. It's right here in the yellow tab that says shoreline. It's its own little book.
Sean's saying, a different sentence.
Yeah.
I think the planning board talked about that one time with the town planner, and nothing came of it.
Yeah.
But
Because not all shoreline would fall within that, or some of it would meet,
Yeah,
so.
But the only limitations outside of the 100 feet are what? Heights of building?
Well, the distance between structures, I would say, would be an
distance
issue.
between structures. I mean, shoreline is 250 feet, as everybody knows, so
Right.
all
But past that first 100, what's really affected past that first 100 feet? It's not tree removal, it's not grading, it's height of building, eh?
yeah, I mean, resource protection could be beyond the 100-foot mark. You know, that's determined by the soil content and the slopes and stuff. So topography plays a factor beyond the 100-foot mark in some instances. The height of structures is affected. Size of the structure is not. So, yeah, it's not too many restrictions.
Well, we're getting sidetracked anyway. We need to, I agree with Glenn, we're getting a little sidetracked here, and we probably ought to go through the questions. But
Well, it's gonna be at the point where the appellant's gonna have to make a decision whether he wants us to move forward with a variance request, and then he's gonna have to meet that criteria. And
Well, if we deny him the variance, he can still move the building and go back for a permit.
I'm not too sure of that, because he's still within the shoreline. If he meets all the setbacks.
If he meets the setbacks that he has listed under the 2.07.
Yeah, it now doesn't become an undue hardship because he's meeting all the setbacks.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So if he fails here, he can move it back
Yeah.
and come apply for a permit.
Yep, yep,
But it
correct.
would have to be attached, correct?
Well, it wouldn't have to be attached. I mean, Dana's got the footprint. Am I dreaming that or what? Yeah, so Dana's got the footprint of where he can build. And he's outside of that footprint, so he needs to pull it inside the, I'm sorry, not
Right, but
footprint.
I thought that they had to be, you weren't allowed to have accessory structures, they had to be conjoined.
Shoreline ordinance doesn't say that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here.
You're thinking Saco River probably.
No,
No?
no, because it's a non-conforming lot,
Yep,
so that's a different
yep,
scenario.
yep. I don't recall reading that anywhere, Sean.
Well, and I know someone that was denied
Yeah,
the permit, just because they found that it was ruled that it had to be attached to the existing, it had to be an addition to the structure to get the sideline setback reductions and fall within that 2.08.
Yes, it was here about 3 months ago.
That was within the 100 feet.
yeah. And he's beyond.
That was
100
within the
feet.
100 feet. They couldn't add another structure within 100
So-
feet. It had to be conjoined.
So if we're gonna allow the intent of 2.07 to work in shoreland, then are we gonna allow the intent of 3.03 to work in shoreland? Against the advice of the town lawyer. So 3.03 would allow an addition to a structure than 10 feet of the property line.
He's not asking for that.
No, he's not. I'm just throwing out a scenario.
Okay.
And if we go back down that road again, we have to go all the way down the road and say there's no setbacks in shoreline.
I know.
So we have to make a decision what road we're going down.
Yep,
We either have to take what we think the intent of the people were that put this whole book together.
yep.
Or we take the advice, it's tough, we take the advice of the lawyer that says those aren't part of shoreline.
Yep.
So, I mean, on this case, we're talking 5.5 feet.
Yep.
So if, either way we go, if we go and say there's no setbacks in shoreline, we're allowing someone to do something 5.5 feet different. It's not that much of a devastation to anybody, but it did bring light to us on the loopholes in the ordinance.
Yep.
So we're only talking 5.5 feet. On the other hand, if we go by the letter of the lawyer, well, that is going by the letter of the
Yeah,
lawyer.
that is-
Right.
But if we go by the assumption that these other pieces affect that, and that's an assumption, not advice of our lawyer.
Yep.
How far are the two buildings apart?
They're gonna be kind of this way to each other, so at the closest, they're gonna probably be about 10 to 12 feet. At the closest.
Yeah, I can see kind
They're
of.
not gonna be parallel, as you can see by the.
There's nothing written in our ordinance that, and I'm just throwing this out there for a question, is there anything in there that has a provision that would say if it's something is not intentionally excluded from like shoreline zoning or another zone, wouldn't the standards of that zone be applicable? I don't know if I've made myself clear.
You
but-
have, yeah, you have,
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
yeah.
Well, and
There's
I've
a
seen
word
it in
that's-
zoning before where the wording, because something gets changed, doesn't mean there's not something else in the zoning that would say that you have to use the standard of that zone, or,
Well, section 1.03, the first sentence, it is the intent of this ordinance to regulate and restrict the use of all lands, waters, and structures.
And I would have to argue it doesn't say that it includes shoreline.
but does it include all the other zones?
You guys.
I'm not the one who said shoreline was
I
state
don't
the
know
one.
why.
Let me read 105, which is abrogation. It's not the intent of this ordinance to abrogate, repeal, annul, impair, or interfere with any existing easements, covenants, deed restrictions, or agreements, or with state statutes, rules, regulations, or permits, or with other local ordinances and regulations.
I don't have a 105.
I don't
You
either.
know, 105. That's
That was
what,
moved from a different
Yep.
section.
in all of the above situations, where this ordinance imposes greater restrictions, the provisions of this ordinance shall govern.
So shoreline is a greater restriction.
Yep. I still think the intent of the ordinance was to have the setbacks of the districts applied to the shoreline zone. And what the members of this board decide to do with that information, that is up to you. You know, we know the intent of 2.07. I agree with the intent of 2.07 that, you know, that shoreline, it should be allowed in shoreline. You know, that's, I agree with that. 3.03, the planning board didn't talk about 3.03. You know, in any case, boy, that's pretty clear to me. In any case includes shoreline.
But they didn't do section 3.
No, they didn't. They didn't. But it has to be an addition. So 303 is off the table in this case.
It wouldn't affect the front setback anyway.
No, that's true. That's
So
true.
3.03 is irrelevant.
Yep. So we know that 2.07, he can't meet .207, so he's asking for a variance of 5.5 feet
Right.
Right.
to, you know, so I think everybody agrees on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just bringing points up because they're
Yeah.
there. And I have to.
Yep. I mean, Natalie says the variance can be applied to that, so, so we're clear on that.
So are we allowing 2.07?
Yes.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
board,
I'm comfortable with going with the assumption that we did originally, that 2.07
Okay, so
is
the board-
accurate in that zone, in that configuration, because it was property, a lot of record prior to zoning, and that's what gives that provision to be able to
Right.
build within that zone.
And that was the intent of the planning board, to allow that to be used in shoreland for non-conforming lots, and it all made sense.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
just weren't
And
advised.
I can't imagine that they made the shoreline zoning to exclude all setbacks. So,
No.
I mean, so we
No,
have
I
to
can't
assume
either.
that other parts of this,
Yeah.
and it's not a totally standalone, as much as they wanted it to be, there's no way that can be a totally
Yeah.
standalone.
Hindsight,
ordinance.
we should have made it a standalone ordinance. But that's neither here
It
nor
had
now.
every single word for everything that you'd ever think you'd need, but I think the application has to apply to the existing zone
Right.
itself too.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to.
So I think the board should make a motion, vote on allowing 2.07 in shoreline applications. And don't make it generic to this case. Just make a motion that will allow 2.07 to be applicable in shoreline zoning.
I will make that motion. I will make a motion that shoreline, that 2.07 is
Will be,
included, or will be included within the shoreline zoning.
You only can have it apply for this. We can't have it apply for,
Yes, we can, because the intent of that was,
well, yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah,
this
to
is-
be safe, we can just.
oh, I see what
do
you're
this
saying, I
case
see what
and
you're
then-
saying.
And then let's go and
So why do we even have to say?
we'll have a discussion after this hearing's
it-
over. The board can go and ask if this gets addressed through the lawyers and
Yeah.
stuff to clarify this, to get
Yeah.
it cleaned up.
Robert, it has to be
Yeah.
part of the minutes, because
Yeah.
Okay.
we have to know what the
Yeah,
board is thinking.
and just, I think at this time, we know what, we understand we've got a problem and we gotta try to help work through it with the town, but this specific case, I think this is what we need to address only.
Yep.
And then we're accepting, their
2.07.
request to fall within 2.07, which gives them a setback reduction to 55.6. Now he's asking for a variance of another 5.5 feet
You got it, perfect.
in addition from
I
that.
make a motion that says that.
Okay, the only
I-
problem is there was a motion on the floor,
No.
so.
Right, I'll finish my motion. I make a motion that we accept Article 2.07 as part of this variance request to be used.
I'll second that.
Hang on, please.
We've talked a lot here for Tammy
Needs a
Sue.
rating instrument, too. Yeah.
I'm cranking.
Talked a lot here for me, too. It's like,
Yeah.
Jim, you seconded?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
now we're down to the hardship.
Perfect. Yep. I guess at this time, do you have any further information at this time, Glenn? to
I do not.
share with us? Okay,
No, I
I
do
would
not.
ask the appellant to back up and, because we're gonna have to look at the variance as a undue hardship, to reduce that another 5.5 feet, or you can choose to modify your plan, as I said before, and you won't need anything, you can go to Glenn and, because we don't have to issue a variance to accept the 2.0.
That's correct.
So if you would like to move forward with a variance request under undue hardship, I'm going to ask that you explain to the board again why you feel that you can't yield, the items. There's going to be 4 items, and then at that point, then we have to go to the ones in the additional ones.
Unfortunately, my idea of undue hardship and yours are different, and I don't quite understand what the undue hardship is about. For me, this started out as a $5,000 shed, and it's turned into putting up a garage. It's the financial hardship for me is what it's turned into me, and I understand that doesn't stand for the criterion that you're looking for, but that's what it is for me. The extra work of, you know, attaching it, whatever we discussed, to the home, the generator being moved, the extra excavation. These are the things the hardship that comes to me. As far as you know, I'm not 100% sure what your definition of hardship is, to be perfectly honest with you.
What there is you have to prove that you cannot yield, that there's 4 questions here to start with, an undue hardship. Question number 1 is that the land in question, and the state's been very specific about this, and they're very strict, and they've set a lot of precedents out there in what they consider undue hardship, and what's a reasonable return. But item number 1 is this land cannot yield a reasonable return unless the variance is granted. That's the hardest one there is to me.
Oh, I understand that.
And-
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily a monetary thing. The state doesn't look at monetary, they look at land use and what's its intended use. And you need to convince us that you can't use it, cannot yield a reasonable return without that variance. And it's just, we can't put words in your mouth.
I
You
understand
gotta
that,
tell
but
us.
what is return? I don't understand what return is. Return to me, again, would be something that I invest something and I get something in return. That's the way I'm understanding it. I don't understand what reason. I mean, I'm looking for storage. I have no storage for my home. I have no place to put a car. I have no. These are the things. These are the return things for me. Is a place to put this stuff safely, lock everything up. I don't understand the difference. You know, that's my return. I wouldn't be putting up a garage for no reason. I would be putting it up for, you know, purposes for myself. So I'm having, like I say, I just don't understand. I mean, that to me, that's the reasoning for it. And the return of putting this garage up would be the fact that I can put things away, I can store things, I can work in it, and it's needed for me to have. That's about the only thing I can come up with.
I get your reason that you want to do it. We just have to look at the guidelines of the state and how the state's addressed what's reasonable.
I understand.
return.
Mr. Chair, I guess a good question for the board to ask is, you know, can you make the barn smaller?
Yeah.
Meet the variance and still maybe not hold all of his toys, but hold most of his toys. You know, he can move the generator. We all know that. He just, you know, doesn't want to spend the money to move the generator.
Yep. And that was one thing that I was going to bring up, because of the size of the building, can you reduce the structure to meet the setbacks? And I know we all have desires to have a bigger building, but
You know, yes, sir. I mean, anything is possible. I mean, obviously, there's many things you can do. I'd come up with some percentages here, and I was kind of adding up and taking some rough estimates. You know, the 55 feet off the road is what we're shooting for, and I understand that. We briefly brought up the fact that from the end of my driveway, 3 other units within the side of my home are within the 55 feet. They all asked for, from the 55 feet now, not the 75, they all asked for roughly anywhere from 29 to 30%, 35% reduction in the 55-foot setback. I'm asking for a 12. I don't believe I'm asking for an awful lot here. I'm kind of actually asking for, I think my numbers were 0.005% of my overall lot to be let back to me, to let me use it for my garage. It's a 1-lane dead-end dirt road. I don't understand the reasoning where the 55 feet comes up. I understand if we're on the side of Route 5 or Route 4 or something like that, we might want to keep the homes back off for safety reasons.
Well, it should be
But this-
75 feet. You've
All
got a
right,
reduction.
75, but I'm saying the 206, the 207 is 55.
Taking that,
Is
yeah.
55. So I was going off of that. I mean, this road, it's not even maintained by the town, we maintain it, you know? These things may not mean anything to you, but what I'm getting at is, you know, we're out there, and I mean, most 85% of my lot, according to section 207, 85% of my lot can't be used. According to that square or that parallel, I can't use it for anything other than just land. And of the 15% of it that I can use, obviously my home takes up a lot of that. So I just don't think, you know, people in my situation, there are other ones in the area, I just don't think it's asking for an awful lot, you know. It's really as simple as that, and I apologize, I don't have what you're looking for. It's
No,
just...
We're trying to help you here.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that we're not. I mean, and we are. We have standards and rules we have to work with.
I understand,
Unfortunately.
and I just
We do.
I have a hard time, you know, like probably a lot of people do, when you know you work hard for something, you pay for it, and then you're told you can't do anything with it, you know. And I respect the board's decision. I may not agree with it, but I respect the board's decision. And I mean, that's really all I've got. I would really like to be able to put up a 24 by 32 garage on my piece of property. I don't think the 5.5 feet closer to the road, my personal opinion, is going to be that much of a, and actually it's half, as you can see, it's diagonal, so it's only about 90 square feet of my 20,647 square foot of my lot that I'm asking for, which comes out to, I believe it's the 0.005% of my lot that I'm asking for. That's,
What was that percentage again?
I believe it comes out to 0.005%.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, because you do own more property within shoreline zone anywhere in the state of Maine, you're gonna fall with additional restrictions that most people aren't gonna have.
Okay.
That's not our fault, unfortunately. The state took that over years ago and made the towns create ordinances and set guidelines and stuff. I own land on the lakes, I know what it's all about, and I don't care for it always, but unfortunately, there's different restrictions.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, I guess at this point, we could probably close the public hearing part of this and go in and, we're gonna have to look at the, undue hardship criteria and vote from there. And, that's what we have to do. We don't have a choice. I mean, this is all written by the state. This isn't something that was written by us. This is the state of Maine. These are guidelines by them. So at this time, I guess I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Motion that we close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. It's gonna happen at this time, we're gonna deliberate and we're gonna go over these items. There won't be any input from the, you know, and you may hear things that you don't agree with, but we're in deliberation at this point. We've had some monthly discussion here tonight over some issues here, and we know we've got things to look at. It's a little enlightening, but at the same time, we've made the decision to accept the 2.08 setbacks for the front, and now we have to determine whether they have met, to start with the first 4 criteria for undue hardship. So I'm going to look for Does anybody want to have any further discussion before we get into those about any items? Or just
I
dive
think
right
he
in?
has the ability to build a garage in another location, and because he has that ability, I don't see an undue hardship.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that too.
And I have to agree with you. There is a place that it can be built, it can be moved, and can meet the setbacks and not need the reduction further than what he's already been given. And as we all know through our workshops and information that we've had along the way, we all know that this is a very hard one to meet, but determine that if you have reasonable return as in use of your property, you know, he has a structure there, he's not prohibited from using his land, so,
Plus the
But
fact that
I would-
he could build it farther back so that
Yeah.
double cancels that deal.
Do we need to,
we need to make a motion.
but do we need to make a motion somewhere that allows Glenn to give that
We don't need to.
permit
No.
based on
No,
207?
no.
No, it's
Because
already in the
we've made our
ordinance.
decision here,
Right.
we've made our discussion to accept that as his
Okay.
basis.
Yeah.
Which will
Okay.
be, whether he's granted or denied, that's still part of the basis of our
Of this
decision.
particular
Of
case?
this case. So we've accepted that, even if we deny it, so you can still go to him, modify your plan a little bit and get it. That would
I
be
just-
my understanding.
I just
is
wanted to make
correct.
sure we covered that
Yep,
point.
that is correct.
Yeah, because we've been making it part of this particular hearing.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion as to whether, I guess we'd we'll start with a motion and a second to whether the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. Do you agree or disagree with that? That's the motion I'm looking for.
I will make a motion that the land in question does yield a reasonable return as it is and does not need a variance.
Okay? Second on that?
I'll second.
We have a second? Did you get that, Tammy?
Yeah, you changed all my wording.
I did?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you didn't use legalese.
Okay,
I think we're still waiting for a vote, Mr. Chair.
Yep, we're gonna vote on that. I just wanna make sure she had the wording before we went too much
Yeah.
further.
The land in question does yield a reasonable return.
So it should say can or cannot on this, right?
Yeah, the
So,
land in question does yield a reasonable return.
Right, we have
Yes.
to, we have to agree or disagree that the land in question.
oh, I make the
Question is, the
motion
land
just
in
like that, and then we
question
vote
cannot
agree or
yield.
disagree. I gotcha, I'm sorry. I
Right.
removed my motion,
Okay.
and I will word it properly to follow the document.
Just read it.
I make a motion that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless the variance is granted.
Second.
Well,
Well, no,
yeah,
Yes.
that was,
that's still not correct.
right.
No,
Yeah,
I read
that's
it
not correct.
word for word.
The land in question can yield a
Cannot.
reasonable
No,
return.
cannot.
Cannot yield a reasonable
Cannot.
return unless a variance
Right.
is granted.
Right,
Right,
so are you,
so we have to vote that we agree with that statement, or we
Or disagree.
disagree with
There you
that
go.
statement.
Right.
yep, there you go.
But we need the motion seconded.
I'll second.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you're voting yes or no.
Now we have to vote, whether we agree or disagree.
Okay.
So we've made the motion that we disagree with the question, and then now we have to vote.
Right, whether we agree or.
You have to vote with, if the property cannot yield a reasonable
Right.
return without the variance, you're gonna
Which
vote
is
yes
what
or
we-
no.
Right, if you agree, you agree with that statement.
Right,
It cannot yield a
exactly.
reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, so any more discussion on that? Okay. All of those that, guess I take a vote that the land in question, that we disagree that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted.
Yep,
Okay? All those in favor of that motion?
I disagree with
I
that.
disagree.
Why?
Yeah.
Because I think it can have a reasonable return without a variance.
I think that's what he said, isn't it?
Any question?
Yeah, well, they've said it 3 ways.
No, that's why I said disagree, not agree.
Yeah,
I said
if you
We need to
agree that it
disagree.
That's what I
cannot,
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I
what the
thought you
motion
said
is that we're
agree.
voting on. No.
I thought you said who, all in favor?
No,
Okay.
disagree.
I disagree.
Board members, let's have Tammy repeat what was said.
Yeah,
Please.
Motion was made that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. If you agree with that statement, that means that you're ultimately, he can get a reasonable return. He doesn't need that garage, the shed, or anything. If you disagree with the statement that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted, means that the land in question, you should be giving the variance.
So I think Tammy
If you
has,
disagree with that statement, it's,
the statement is that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted.
Right, so an
and you
agree would
either
mean,
If we agreed with that, then we're saying that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted.
Right.
We're not agreeing with
No,
that,
we're
we're disagreeing with
disagreeing with
that.
that.
And that's what the motion is.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, and that's what I said, and
Yep.
we have to vote
Right.
as to whether we agree with the motion that was made, not the statement. The
Yeah.
motion that was made is what we're voting on.
Correct.
Yeah,
at least I thought so.
yeah,
everybody good?
Yes.
yeah. Okay, is not that over? How does I'm gonna ask it a different, then, the vote's gonna be in favor of the motion that was made. All those in favor of the motion that was made?
That was to disagree.
That was to disagree. Okay, you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. You
Robert?
understand?
The motion was to disagree? I don't understand, no.
You're disagreeing with the fact that he can't get a reasonable return without the variance. That's what you're disagreeing to.
I agree you can get reasonable return without the variance.
Yeah, but the question's saying that
The
he
question-
can't. Without a variance, he
Cannot, okay.
cannot.
So you're.
Yeah,
you're agreeing.
cannot, right there, that's the key word.
So I'm gonna disagree with that statement.
You got it.
Good.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep,
yeah,
you got it.
yeah.
My vote's to
And it's
disagree
that
with
word
that
cannot
statement.
is what changes.
I won't word it.
Yeah,
Who's
okay,
going
so
first?
we're gonna vote. All those in favor of the motion that's been made?
Say agree or disagree.
agreed.
Don't
So
agree.
there are.
Don't use
four-
that word agree or disagree. In
Yeah.
favor of the motion or not? All those in favor of the motion?
That means to disagree.
So we're disagreeing, right?
Yes.
We're
I
disagreeing.
don't understand.
It's a double negative. The
made
way
it-
you said
no,
the
we
statement
made
made it a double negative.
No, we made a motion. The motion's been
If you're
made and
asking me
seconded.
if I agree with that, or if I disagree with that statement, I can
No,
answer that.
we've already made that decision when we made the motion, that you disagree with his statement, that he cannot yield a reasonable return. So now the motion's saying that he can't, that we've agreed that the motion that's out there and seconded is that we disagree with the statement that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. That's the motion. And seconded. That's what I believe. Now, if you were to say we disagree with that, then you're disagreeing with the motion that we just made.
Any
Not the
question-
word here, and it doesn't matter here because we've moved beyond that. We've already made the decision, so that our motion says it.
No, the motion was made and seconded,
Right.
and now we're voting on it.
That's
We've
correct.
had our discussion. But the motion is still, the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted.
That's correct.
Well,
That's what the statement says.
Yeah, that's not.
And now we're agreeing or disagreeing. So all in favor is agreeing or disagreeing? If you use the words agree or disagree, it's a lot easier because we're talking about a statement. You either agree with the statement or you don't. I disagree with the statement.
With
I'm
the
confused
station-
by the words, but I
Right.
disagree with the statement.
It's coming to the same thing.
It is coming
It's
to.
coming to the same thing.
Yep.
And I see what you're saying, and I can do it either, you know.
Right choice voting.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, so,
Okay. Disagree.
yep. Does members agree or disagree with that statement? We've all-
Disagree.
We all
Four of us have
disagree.
determined that we disagree.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second, we'll need a motion and second for the need for a variance is due to unique circumstances of the property and not to the general conditions of the neighborhood.
I
Make a motion
Okay.
that we take what the chairman said and agree or disagree. Let's go straight out with the question the way it's written. In other words, that's the motion.
We agree.
We agree.
We agree with that statement.
That's seconded.
Okay, seconded.
We good, Tammy?
Discussion?
I'm going to the video.
Okay.
Go into the video.
Discussion?
Nope.
All those that say that, item number 2, that you agree?
Is that
Great.
4?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm going backward. You just got my head spinning the way you read that.
Well, that first question, the word cannot,
Right, changes it.
can change things. Okay, number 3, motion that the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality.
I motion the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality.
I'll second it.
Agree? Discussion? All those that agree? Okay. Item number 4. For a motion that the hardship is not the fault of the action taken by the appellant or a prior owner.
I make a motion that the hardship is not the fault of the action taken by the appellant or the prior owner.
I'll second that.
second.
Right, did it.
No, I'm sorry.
Any discussion? All those that agree with that? Okay. At this point, it says if the undue hardship is approved, then you have to go on to get additional variance standards below. Unfortunately, the board did not feel that item number 1, that the land cannot yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted, was denied. Therefore, we're not gonna go on further. And,
Because it doesn't meet the criteria. It doesn't meet the criteria.
So at this point, we've made those decisions, we're gonna make a motion to grant or deny, and I will take a motion that because I will make a motion because you met standard number 1 on the variance for undue hardship, and, that he did not meet all of the 4 necessary criteria, and that the undue hardship variance for map 47 lot 27 is denied.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
So the variance is denied.
Correct.
Variance is denied.
Yep, variance is denied.
Thank you for your time.
Now, I have to advise the applicant, if he is unhappy with this decision, they may request a reconsideration by the board within 10 days of the date of this decision. If you come up with some new evidence or new thoughts or whatever, and you choose to ask us to reconsider it, you'll have to file the necessary paperwork within the 10 days, and we're happy to help you out any way we can. And parties aggrieved by this decision may appeal it also to the Superior Court within 45 days of the date of this decision pursuant to 30-AMRSA 2691 and 4353, and main rules of civil procedure, Rule 80B. Okay? So I guess at this point, I would like to have some discussions beyond this hearing for a quick minute with the board, if everybody's amenable to that. Should we do this outside of adjournment or no?
I would do it outside of adjournment.
Okay. I would take a motion that we adjourn.
Motion we adjourn?
Second for that.
Seconded.
Discussions? No? All those in favor? Okay. Very